Sir Edward the White Knight, how are you?
Hey, Justin. Oh, hello. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. Things are busy, mostly in a good way, but
Yeah.
there's always some fires that need to be put out when things start to move.
Yeah. Do you want to share what you've been working on? We don't have a community demo. You just regale us with your tales.
Uh oh, well, I could actually mention something about this. Might be kind of interesting. Actually, I have two things I could talk about, but one of them is more. Yeah, yeah, I have something that I could talk about for sure.
Cool. Okay. It is decided. I I took off my CNCF hoodie like 2 seconds ago. I'm gonna go put it back on. All right. I'm gonna drop the link to the meeting notes in chat. It's also in the meeting agenda if you don't have access to chat. Hey, Gabriel. Hey, Mike. Hannah, I heard that you guys are going through a storm over there, which is why we might not have Jen.
Yeah, I would say I'm not sure if she'll be here.
Yeah. All right. Let me see. I think we have a script, right? Hello, everyone. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded and posted to LFX and maybe YouTube shortly after. Your participation in these meetings is agreement to abide by the Cloud Native Code of Conduct, which can be found in all sorts of links all over the place. If you need it, let us know. I think it's on the TOC repo. Uh, I need at least one person to join me in scribing. Evan, are you waving to say hello? I just saw you. Hi, Evan. Or are you waving to
I
join us?
was waiting to volunteer.
Yay! And for existing members and working group reps, please remember to include your organization company along with the working group that you're involved with and the update. All right, that's the script. Done. Now, new member intros. Does anybody want to say hello? Uh, Anybody want to just hop off of mute if you want to say hi? Okay. With that, we don't have anything on the official schedule for the demos. Last time that I checked on it, I don't actually have edit access anymore, and I'm not gonna request it because I don't. I'm just not gonna mess with that right now. But because we don't have anything scheduled for today, would anybody like to share some work that you've been doing? I already asked Justin. I think you said yes, but I don't want to overcommit on your behalf.
That's fine. I can talk really briefly.
Cool.
Um, so obviously no slides or anything like this. I wanted to more like let you all know something that we are starting up at NYU. We're starting up something that conceptually is kind of similar to a software supply chain security like NOC kind of thing, where like an operations center where we'll go and be trying to trace things across different ecosystems. And we'll be working with Andrew Nesbitt of ecosystem.ms, or ecosystems as everyone says it, who isn't trying to poke mild fun at the naming of it, where they have all these data feeds and stuff like this from different areas. So the idea, the kind of way to think about this is um, we'll be collecting and looking through all this data. We'll have a bunch of master students that go and help out with this and do projects and build connections to different communities. So, for instance, if someone goes and says, hey, Red Hat's actually pretty concerned about what's happening in the broad ecosystem of all the stuff we're pulling in, it would be great to have somebody take a look at that. Then that's a relationship that, there might be a master student that we'd have a relationship, or the same could be true for, whichever folks are going and making software and working with us. And yeah, so there's some of the details here are slightly up in the air, but in general, we'll probably have a way for folks that want to support us and work with us and have us like actually spend a little more of a concerted effort in general ecosystems they care about, be able to work with us on that. And so if that's also something you're potentially interested in, then please feel free to reach out. I don't know if I've done this justice, or if I feel very like icky salesy kind of person here, but I hope like that you get the gist of what we're trying to do. My real goal, I would love to get enough where we can just do this really well for all of the like Python, Ruby, PHP, like all the kind of like big Rust, big ecosystems out there. Yes, Evan.
Um, is this aiming to do somewhat of the same type of thing that companies have been doing on sort of an ad hoc basis, like Socket? And I'm trying to remember. There's like 4 or 5 of them, and I'm blanking on their names.
It's
Where they're scanning packages as they come in and flagging, attacks and so forth, like the Shahoods and so forth.
I mean, to some extent, yes, we will be looking at that kind of stuff. I'd also say that we're meant to be more of like a training ground. So if you imagine, there's a bat cave, then we're like training up all the little robins to be actually really good contributors and getting them out there and working, especially with these like, I like to make this as much of like service as possible, where we're really working with like communities that do really important things, but don't have like a big corporate entity behind them. And then, part of that will be that hopefully, we've already identified our first set of funding, and I'm not, since it's a recorded call and there's quite a few people on it, I'm not, I think, going to say exactly who it is, but because I'm not 100% sure that I'm cleared to do that. But we already have some identified funding, and there's a bunch of other big groups that we think will be interested when we kind of pass the hat around. And Vito, because frankly, everybody cares about all these big ecosystems. So we're hoping that can, like, we can both help them with slightly more directed things, but also use a lot of that spillover to help everyone wherever we can, and develop amazing talent that will be part of all these communities.
I was mostly trying to parse the knock reference,
Yeah,
having worked in
yeah.
operational environments before. I was trying to figure out, okay, what scope are you responding to, and like timelines for response and so forth. Typically, a knock runs,
Yeah, not 24/7 at this point. I mean, if we actually get relatively well funded and there's someone in an APAC sort of area, then we could actually do this fairly easily. I don't want to say 24/7, but like 24 we could definitely do.
Well,
Uh,
it may also be that 24/7 is actually not as critical here as it is,
right.
at a place like Comcast, where
Right. Right. And we're more looking for we can kind of poke around and dig deep into little cross-cutting paper cuts that lots of people have, and like kind of surface things that are sort of invisible now, and just sort of dredge those out of this ocean of software supply chain data. It's part of the thinking. Um,
Definitely happy to compare notes as well because we have something internally that we've built out for our customers, doing similar sorts of things where we're scanning various. Right now, given our size, we can only scan what our customers are using from upstream. But interested in kind of like, yeah, see where we can share notes, maybe collaborate in some way.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. That would be terrific.
Because
Um,
again, nothing we're doing is actually proprietary. It's like quite literally we're running all the scanners and fuzzers and linters and various other things, and we're trying to correlate it with data from ecosystems and from deps.dev and other places. Um, yeah.
yeah. So they definitely want to talk through that and figure that out. Like we were trying not to get exactly on what other people are doing, and we're trying to go for like little targets of opportunity that are hard to commercialize, um, in some ways. So we're definitely not trying to like raise a ton of money from a bunch of companies and then go out and like launch our own, I don't want to say Kusari or whatever, but like we're not trying to do that. If we were doing that, we wouldn't be a university lab soliciting, in this way. So it's very much like a non-goal is to do that. Um, all right. Any other thoughts, questions about any of this? Anyone want me to get our like biz dev people in contact with you about how much money and how you want to support this? I mean, we don't really have biz dev, but like the sponsored gifts people at NYU.
Yeah. What kind of increments are you, and this is just curiosity, but like what kind of increments are you dealing? Are you like looking at like VC level or angel level or like
I mean,
CNCF event sponsorship or it's like
realistically, the first conversation I had about this was about 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, and we have no idea. And we're not like I'm not trying to raise money to raise money. I'm trying to raise enough money to support this thing. And it turns out that it doesn't actually take that much money to support this thing. So we'll see. Like if we really want it to be knock like, and we're gonna hire like also get like someone from some other part of the globe and like pull in people and do stuff like that, then it can grow. But I'm also a believer of like let's do something, show we can do something useful small, and scale that out, and then we kind of go from there. So just mail that $20 to me, John. Put it in a box of Thrival and send it along. It could be a down payment. No, but seriously, like we'll see. But this isn't going to be like a $1 million a year like center or something like that. Yeah.
very cool. Very cool. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. Any other questions for Justin about the latest goings on at NYU? Alrighty. Then go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, I do have something. If folks had 5 minutes, I can chat through some of it. I know some folks have already seen it because I linked it in a few places. But related to some of the sort of supply chain security related things, I realize I actually haven't updated from my local in a bit. So some of this data is maybe like 3, 4 days old as opposed to from this morning. But I've been playing around with trying to, with a lot of the supply chain related things, trying to kind of do some conformance testing on like what various SBOM tools are capable of. Want to include SBOMit in here as well, though MikeBomb mostly is conformant with SBOMit today. It's doing something very similar using eBPF, but um, uh, I think, there's a couple of things in here that I think are relevant specifically more to cloud native, which is around like, hey, like the difference between something like a tool that can generate Python SBOMs and something that works with like an OS, right? Because usually when you're looking at an image, you're like, oh, it's a combination of like there's going to be Debian packages in this image plus maybe npm or something like that. So that's kind of a thing there. There's a couple of things that were interesting, which is very few of the tools actually, or well, technically none of the tools are fully compliant with all the specs in the way they're supposed to be. A lot of them actually make decisions that I think are reasonably practical, but like they make decisions around we don't do SHA-256 sum, even though the latest versions of like SPDX say thou shalt have SHA-256 sum. And the reason being is a lot of folks are like, hey, SHA-256 summing all of this stuff slows stuff down, and we want people to have, yada, yada, yada. So there's some issues there. The other thing that also is kind of a huge issue from what I've seen is a lot of projects don't handle Debian package curls correctly. This is mostly Epoch versioning and some of the other quirks of Debian that kind of cause some issues. And then different projects have different issues with like multi ecosystem. So things like, hey, this is like Debian, but a bunch of others. So this is like this multi ecosystem image included Debian, it included PyPI, included npm, and it included a binary in the same image. And like different tools will be able to discover them differently. Uh, you know, and while I'm kind of here, the thing that I think this keeps hammering home is like including all of this stuff as part of your build is always going to be better if you can do it, because you're always going to have the canonical state of what actually is being pulled in. Because if you're a Docker image, you can literally look at what files are literally being pulled in as the Docker image is being built. If you do it after the fact, you have to infer from what you've scanned in that image. And lots of things could happen. Things could get embedded into other things, yada yada. So multi-ecosystem, here's like, for example, Trivy can discover most of the packages, but it misses something like just a random binary in the image. Whereas Sift can discover it, but Sift also has an issue where it doesn't generate dependency trees. And for a lot of folks who are looking at vulnerability management, they want to know where in the dependency tree a thing actually is. So they're like, hey, yeah, it's great that foo has this vulnerability, but why does foo have this vulnerability? I look at my manifest file and I don't see foo in there, and it's because no, you inherit Baz, Baz inherits includes bar includes foo, and so that's how you got that vulnerability in, and a lot of that information is often lost, and also a lot of times you can't infer that information quite easily unless you have access to how the underlying tools are doing the dependency resolution. So that's a bit of a challenge. There's and then there's another couple of things which are sort of interesting, which is like a lot of tools struggle with I don't know what the exact term is. Uh, not every tool, sorry, not every build does uh a lot of builds will do a lot of extra magic on top of stuff in order to scrub out data in order to package things up. So for example, Maven, there's a thing that I found out called a shaded jar, which is pretty much, hey, I've included all of the other stuff from other jars in this one bigger jar. And there's different ways that folks have like scrubbed out stuff. So technically, like, so when even in the shaded jar, you could end up having, let's say I have a shaded jar that includes A, and A includes B and C, but because C is never used, C gets completely scrubbed out. So it's, I have a thing that includes B, but not C. But if you were just looking at the normal manifest and looking just purely at the high level, a lot of that stuff ends up getting lost. So there's a lot of different techniques that a lot of the different tools like Sift and Trivy are doing to try and figure that out. So again, if we kind of go here, dependency relationships, a lot of these tools like Sift doesn't mostly do the dependency trees. And then the other thing, which I think is kind of also important to me at least, is when it comes to package URLs, a lot of the tools don't generate correct package URLs, especially again for Debian. This was something that was brought up at KubeCon. It got resolved. And funnily enough, even though it was brought up at KubeCon, it was the KubeCon slide that described what the actual standard says was also itself incorrect. Like, this was an issue with just sort of generally with package URL where the spec doesn't really say you should be using, whether you should use the code name or the actual version number of the Debian distro. But if you actually look through Philippe's issues, you can see Philippe saying, oh, yeah, everybody should just be doing this thing. And it's not clearly defined in the spec, but everybody's supposed, anyway, there's a couple of issues in that. And then the other thing, which I think is also pretty interesting, is I find that none of the tools really provide much in the way of transparency. Very few of the tools, as far as I can tell, are actually using elements of either CycloneDX or SPDX that can declare, I generated this SBOM based on this SBOM at attestation, or I generated this SBOM based on a scan. And for each of the elements, like, oh, I detected this in the manifest. That's why I'm saying it exists. Or I detected this literal file in the image. That's why it's there. Because that stuff is super useful for somebody who sees an SBOM, because sometimes you just see an SBOM and you're like, I see the SBOM, I see the image you gave me, and they don't really line up. And they're like, oh, well, I ran this tool and this tool was incomplete, right? Whereas even just having somebody tell you an SBOM is incomplete in, like, we looked for X, Y, and Z, we didn't look at A, B, or C at all, is useful for the consumer of that thing. Because I know not a lot of folks are still consuming SBOMs right now, but that's super, super useful. Yeah, and that's about it. This is, a public gist, so I will share it in the meeting notes.
Cool. Any questions for Mike?
I think I got mine answered last week.
This is awesome. Like, how hard was this to put together?
Not very. So most of this was honestly like, hey, me telling Claude, look, I want to run these things. I want to generate an image with this. And I want Claude to literally tell itself, like, I want to only include a certain set of, like, the things that were kind of difficult is even getting Claude to say, like, what is ground truth? Like, as in, I want you to very specifically craft an image so that you don't need an SBOM tool to know what's in that image. Like, I want you to build a jar that you know is going to do these things so that these other tools can come in and then trace the build for something like SBOMit or inspect the image. So again, it wasn't very difficult. I do plan to upload. It will be open source. I just literally haven't pushed it out. This, like, I'm calling it SBOM conformance. Could we so again, this wasn't very difficult to run. I think quite literally the biggest issue for me was like too much disk space usage on my machine. Running a bunch of images on my old MacBook now is starting to cause issues. But yeah, it's mostly just in a for loop, run these images, run these various SBOM tools in those images, generate the SBOMs, pull them out, and then it's a bunch of Python code that just sort of compares the two. It doesn't make any like it still gets certain things wrong because again, sometimes it itself doesn't know that when I downloaded this binary included a link to some random thing, but I keep iterating on it as I discover new stuff.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you, Mike. So just to push us through to the bottom of the meeting, we had a APAC session last week after this call last week. On that meeting, there was a demo that you can see a link to it relating to ISO 42001. And that I think Tiago was the one who did that presentation. I wasn't present for it. So he's looking at agent governance and agentic gateways. So that recording should be available if you want to go and check that out. Was anybody else present for that? I don't see any overlap. It was a pretty small session last week. Okay. Moving on. Does anybody want to share any updates from the TOC?
I don't think they had a meeting yesterday, unless I missed it on my calendar.
Okay. Then let's just hop down the list. Who wants to give a project update first? I could go down the bullet points. Supply chain.
We're going to have a closing out presentation next week with, what we've learned and so forth.
Cool. Has that been in collaboration with the community group as well?
This is mostly a summary of the work that Matt Young did to try to extract a bunch of tools or try to extract a bunch of SBOMs from projects and answer graph questions about them. So different focus in the community group has been taking.
I guess my question was just like, is there any collaboration that has happened there, or
There
should
has
we?
not been collaboration that has happened.
Okay. Should there be for the final presentation?
We could certainly also, bring that there. We were going to also update the README with the results and PR that to the TOC so that they could see the outcome of the initiative. But we were going to do that after at least this group had provided feedback.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any questions on that? All right. Security assessments. We had some chatter about this, about the documentation and stuff in Slack today. But at large, do we have any actual assessment work that is ongoing or could give an update on?
I don't think so.
Cool.
Would be happy to have more, but I need yeah.
It's been weird. Okay, so something that I caught wind of, and I've been chatting with some folks. I think there was a Slack thread with somebody in it. It looks like there's going to be some folks linking to the really old security assessments course. And since they're going to be linking to it in a public forum, we're wanting to actually kind of accelerate. LF's been asking a few of us, mostly OpenSF, has been asking for help, like getting that course content updated for the security assessments guide, the generic one. And that's because it's an express learning course. So Evan and I volunteered a couple months back and haven't pushed that across the finish line. That is focused on self-assessments. And then there's also, we kind of made a soft commitment to um, make the security assessments as a project, and that also stalled. So I'm going to be taking a look at that over the next few weeks. I'd say the next week or two, because I don't know how soon uh, they're going to release that research thing that's linking to it in the notes. So I want to make sure that we have that updated. I guess where I'm umming and hawing over here is I think I'll be able to push that through and just like ping Evan and Justin for PR reviews. But if you guys anticipate that there's anything that I haven't thought of related to the course or related to the um, assessments repo, please let me know because I don't know the ideas I haven't had yet.
I think there was maybe some confusion about the handoff between like a self-assessment and a joint assessment from how things went with Kyverno that I think possibly did not get resolved. I would be happy to spend some time to talk. I mean, like very, very briefly, the project does the self-assessment. The joint assessment document is like basically the feedback document that we give them, right? And so like their self-assessment document, we basically get them to expand it and make it much more perfect as part of it. But that's effectively the joint assessment process is them lengthening that plus us writing the recommendations, which with a little tiny bit more text in it. And so if you can also check to make sure that's clearly what's going on in the description, that would be super useful.
Cool. Yeah. I don't think I've seen that documented anywhere. So yeah.
It's documented in the PDF book.
Oh,
I don't think it's documented clearly outside of that.
cool.
The current OpenSSF bit just says joint assessments coming soon, and I believe the course doesn't address joint assessments at all.
Yeah. The
So,
course, it's out of scope for the course. And yeah, we never got to.
I'm wondering whether joint assessments are mostly a CNCF situation and may not be quite as common elsewhere because there isn't like a standard group
So
to do that.
so that's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. But and Justin, I think maybe your perception of the Q&A might be interesting. So I threw out a passing comment to justify so when we were at wherever we freaking were, Amsterdam, and we were giving a panel on self-assessments, and I needed to kind of justify like, okay, well, why are we doing, why are we sitting down 100 people and just talking about self-assessments? And my comment that I just kind of threw out there was we're focusing on self-assessments because it's more easily replicated within a firm and other projects, closed source, whatever. Anybody can do a self-assessment. And some of the Q&A was like, well, what if we have security professionals that want to be expanded? It's like, oh yeah, if you have a security team and you have a development team, the development team has done a form of security self-assessment, then we would call that a joint assessment when your security team comes in and starts interacting with that and expanding on it. And then I think we just kind of moved on. If I don't know that we spent much time on that at all, but it seemed like something that folks were interested in, at least in passing conversation. And that's where I would look to Justin to elucidate on if he got a different vibe from that panel.
No, yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think in theory we could have like a training class or there could be a section of the like some part of the book that explained a little more clearly. I think I do go into that quite a lot actually, about how to be a good like reviewer. That's like a big part of it. So maybe it does. Maybe it is there. Maybe it's not clear enough there. Maybe it's not there. I don't know. Like other
I
people
don't think
can
I
judge.
extracted that part of the book.
It is present in the book.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I extracted that to the like project level.
It's not extracted to the repo or the course.
Yeah, I don't think I did it. Yeah. So that might be something I'll just turn an eye to, like getting that pulled out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Especially if it's already there, then there's no work.
No work for me.
It has a bunch of CNCF specific and NYU specific things.
I think as examples. I don't think
It talks a lot about the security pals process.
Okay. I don't remember that part, but maybe that.
Well, I read it yesterday, so I
Well,
have
thanks
some.
for
This
getting ahead
is
of that.
yeah. This happens a lot where someone's like, "Oh, like why does
yeah.
Tough do this?" And I'm like, "Tough does that? What? I don't remember that." And then I look and it's like a paper. It's in the paper that I wrote, and it's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know."
I've done that as well. But I
Checks
just
out.
wanted to explain why I was confident.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's helpful. So I
It's
suppose
like 15 pages.
yeah, I suppose when I look to start bringing it over into the Git repo from the PDF, I'll flag the places that if I have to like take a liberty on uh changing the text for the context, I'll flag that for closer review when I do it. Okay, that feels like it was progress because that's work that I have to do over the next couple weeks, and that was a helpful conversation. Thank you. Moving on, we don't have Jen. Hannah, could you represent the security controls stuff? I think that's what this next bullet point is about, right?
Yeah. So I guess like the updates for the Cloud Native Security Controls catalog is one, the change of name, like how we're going to actually reference the catalog, because there was a Slack thread about it, just based on the announcement blog. Like we figured that out. Like, oh, it needs to be voted on. So if you have time to go and look in the initiative Slack channel, in the CNCF Slack workspace, the voting is open. And also, I guess updates there, we're going to try and work with the Cloud Native Postgres to co-author a blog, just kind of like putting the Cloud Native Security Controls catalog. I guess that's how you'll reference it for right now until the name is determined. But like putting that into practice and creating the hardening guide for the regulated end users. And so we're going to try and author a blog with them, and then the announcement blog should be finished with all of the edits pretty much by the end of this week or next. And so that's the main updates for right now. I think the PR is still in draft. I believe Eddie reviewed it, but it will likely require some more reviews and probably a change once the naming convention is updated.
I think the naming might be the part to double click on right now with more people live to speculate. There was some pedantry, which we all consider to be a very good thing in this group, fortunately. We had some pedantry about whether the security controls catalog was providing technology specific threat informed risks. Sorry, controls, or is it providing broad, widely scoped, like more generically useful guidance? And we argued for a long time about like when to use each of those terms, and guidance would be when if you can't write a test against it, then it's guidance. It might be a best practice, a regulation, something like that, right? But if you can write a test against it, that's a control. And so we realized maybe like less than a week ago, I think, Hannah and Jen and I were sitting there and we're just like, hang on. Um, these are technically guidance artifacts that we're making here. Um, and if we use all the OpenSF language, it's guidance. Um, but would it be disruptive? And this is where the question really comes down to. If we changed this from cloud native security controls to cloud native security guidance, would that disrupt the reputation of the document, the awareness of the document, the messaging around the document, right? Would it create value for the end users or restrict value by doing that renaming? Because if it creates less value by renaming, then pedantry no longer serves its purpose, right? So that's the question, and I think even in the thread of the poll from the first few ideas, John Zola was like, "Yeah, I don't understand any of these names," and so where I stopped it was like, "What about cloud native security guidance?" And I think that's the place. It's not even in the actual poll; it's in the comments, but I think that's the direction that the commenters in that channel are leaning toward is switching it from cloud native security controls, which would be the like V1, um, almost no changes, but now it's machine readable. There's been a few revisions and it's renamed to cloud native security guidance. Like, is that something that folks could get behind, or do we see pitfalls to that? Why drop the word control? Um, because the definitions that we've been using, a control the catalog doesn't have controls according to the definitions that a few of us have been using, and that's where I'm saying it's pedantry. We could increase the precision and use this like cross community language and that kind of stuff by changing the name, but we don't want to even field that idea if it would restrict the value of the document by changing the name. Is this such a weird idea that it's hard to opine on, or is it just like just kind of a
I guess my question would be like, why would that make it lose value? I guess I don't fully understand what your
I
concern
don't, yeah, it's straight up just like double checking, like, would changing the name impact the value of the document? Can anybody see a reason that it would? Because that's a big thing to do. Like, changing the name is a big thing.
I would say something about changing the link, being different than changing the name. But the I mean, how many folks do we have a sense of how many folks are using this art and naming it in other places?
I haven't had visibility on that. I think I've seen it crop up once or twice over the last couple of years in the wild. Like, there have been times I've seen it in the wild, but
Yeah, no, people have talked to me about it. I just don't know how prevalent that is. Um, I mean, what's that?
Oh, I thought you were done. I was gonna interject another question after that. Keep
Go for
going.
it. I really didn't have anything else to add to go.
I was gonna ask if we've seen any evidence of confusion by the naming. I mean,
like, has it caused a problem being named what it is right now?
yeah. Has it caused people, to come in and say, oh hey, I was trying to do this and, you know, this isn't really like fit for the purpose that I thought it was, or something like that.
Yeah, no, well, I think it's because we're only now getting to a point where we're recommending people stop overloading the term. People are used to the term being overloaded. Controls can mean anything. And it's very recent advice that we've started saying, "Hey, let's be more specific with how we use that word." So people are very used to it being overloaded. I don't think it would cause any problems to leave it how it is. It would just be pedantically like moving in the direction that a few of us think is the future.
Um, I am concerned that guidance might lead to more confusion than controls.
I'm wondering if John's comment is agreeing with you, although
Yes.
okay.
It's agreeing with Evan.
Okay. Yeah, because I was reading yours, you're like, cloud native security guidance makes me think of all the things the tag has done. I was like, yeah, that's what it is. It's that's kind of what the controls catalog is, right? Okay. So I guess we'll go with Hannah's request of uh I'm gonna make a note that if you uh I'll just tag Evan and John so you guys don't have to rewrite. Uh I'll tag you on the Slack channel, and then if anybody else has thoughts, then please.
Thanks, Eddie.
Okay. I made a super vague comment and tagged you guys. So you can elaborate however you like. Okie dokie. MCP auth. Anybody want to speak to that? Okay. Security slam is
Sorry, I
oh
forgot.
yeah, go ahead.
Um, I know I brought this up, I think last week, but I did review the the paper. I do think it's in need of some kind of cleaning up again. I think if we can sort of push for any sort of future, this is something the TOC should probably be pushing, is like give folks training on how to write a white paper. And then in addition to that, I think the thing is like ensure when writing a white paper, like you start with your scope, and like the scope should be approved by somebody. Because I think it's hitting a lot of the things we've seen in the past that some other white papers have done of um, it's a lot of stuff on auth and auth-n and auth-z and what they are, not in how MCP changes how you think about it. Um, yeah.
Yes, that's 2 points. One, I guess, have we made sure that that feedback has been communicated?
So I did communicate the specific like things of like what we just said of like, hey, focus primarily on like a lot of the like in my opinion, like all the stuff about auth-n and auth-z that is like background should be less than a page, ideally even half a page. With references to other white papers, like, hey, look at the IEM white paper for this, look at this for the thing for this. But when thinking about MCP, um, we should be focused on that. Yeah. Like when since we're focusing on MCP, let's focus on how you think about authentication and authorization differently when thinking about, dealing with AI/MCP. Because again, yeah, it's just like auth-n and auth-z is like there's a bunch of white papers on that, and this is not a white paper on that, so we don't need to duplicate that work. Is kind of the thing I try to kind of get across. And then there was some other like there were some other fixable things, which is like it both in a couple of paragraphs it both talks very high level strategically and then very low level like implementation detail, and it's like, hey, we should probably, but again, that's more of like a how do you organize everything after the content is made. But again, nothing that I feel is unfixable. It's just, uh, you know, there's a lot of content in there, of which a lot of it is just repeat stuff from other stuff, other papers.
Cool. Is all of that feedback captured somewhere that the authors are able to
Yep,
review
it's
it?
it should be in the doc. If they haven't already, checked I put a bunch of the stuff in there in the doc. But yeah, the thing I wanted to highlight as more of a general problem is, hey, we should probably highlight to the TAC, like, what can we be doing just to make sure that uh, folks understand, like, this is the right way to make a paper of, when we're saying, like, keep it narrowly scoped to the topic, that kind of thing.
I think we can do this as initiatives get approved too, is that we make sure
Yeah.
we do something, we work with them on the scope at that stage. And then, yeah.
Yep.
Is this
Yeah.
something- I think Mike had also said that we should get some of this guidance formulated at the TOC level.
Yeah, I don't think like for me it's more like a high level, like, hey, TOC, it'd be great if, like, folks who have not taken a white paper training should take a white paper training that goes through some of these things. And because, like, the thing that makes me feel bad is, like, when you see all this content, a lot of it is good content, but not good content for the paper. You're like, you spent a lot of time working on a thing that is not gonna be
It's not
valuable.
the assignment.
Yeah, is not the assignment, is not valuable, and I feel bad that telling you this far in. That's kind of how I feel about some of it. So it's like, hey, in the future, it'd be great to make sure that folks, like, if they still do it, it's like, hey, it's on them.
I feel like that nugget that you had of review of the existing best practice should be less than 1 page of the white paper is the type of thing that might be useful
Yeah.
to get the TOC to repeat.
Yeah. I can.
It's not a lovely source, but if the TOC says it, then hopefully more people will listen.
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, it's I know I'm preaching to the choir here, so I'm not gonna go further. So sorry, Eddie.
Oh, it's cool. We do have the I don't know if you guys just mentioned this, the Google Drive, the white paper starter pack, right? That kind of stages these things, and it's not universally useful, or it doesn't make the white paper bulletproof, but it does, like, phase things out to be like, hey, scoping is first. And I know IM and MCP both used that, which is evidence that it's not bulletproof, right? But it does at least make sure that people are reminded of, like, hey, these are the order of doing things. So if we make any recommendations to the TOC, it might extend from that pack that we built over the last several. I think Emily made the first version of it, and then at some point we refined it and moved it into Google Drive. So if we take anything to TOC, we might remember that exists. Okay, Security Slam, we don't need to revisit until beginning of August. Maybe whatever month comes before that, June, July, maybe end of July. IM white paper, we have an update in the notes, unless anybody's present that wants to elaborate. I saw a version, it's like a version 1.1 PR was made. So there hasn't been a PDF publication of it yet, but it is in the TOC repo. And no, I don't see an update on that change, but there was a recent revision issued on the white paper. And I think that's it. Any other project updates that didn't get captured here? Any bullet point missing? Okie dokie. Well, we're doing good then. Triage of current issues. We don't have a lot of time for this, but if y'all could just click over there with me, and maybe we could silently look for anything that's, like, if you guys see any alarm bells that we need to respond to. I don't see anything super new. There is a request for more assessment documentation, and Brant said he's gonna draft something on that. Okay. Since nothing's standing out to us, final opens from any partner
Actually,
groups. Go ahead.
there's an initiative showcasing frictionless secure coding success stories and pain points that got added to tag security and compliance 2 weeks ago. That was previously in tag developer experience, and I'm not sure why we got added, but it's also flagged as needs group, so I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that was a mistake.
1943.
Well, maybe one of the chairs could get to the bottom of that. Comment on
Okay.
it. You'd comment on it even.
Yeah, that's what I will follow up.
Hey, what you tagging us for? Okay. Then would anybody like to volunteer for a future community group meeting? Community presentation is what I meant to say. Community demo. Anybody have anything you want to show off next week?
We'll do a supply chain insights. We'll do a presentation next week.
Supply chain insights. Cool. I no longer have edit access on that doc, so could you just add that?
I do not either.
Oh, shoot.
I have requested access. I don't know.
I'll attempt to add it. See what
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Well, final opens. Anything we didn't touch on that folks want to touch on? All right. Well, have a good rest of your day, everybody.